Hello and welcome to this video covering the entire audit process from start to finish. We're going to cover all the major sections of an audit. So let's start out with the importance of an audit. So why do we need an audit? A company needs audited financial statements for the users of the financial statements. This could be a bank that is considering lending the money company or investors that want to consider investing in the company. So then the owners are required to have audited financial statements, which is where the entire audit process comes in. But as the auditors, we don't just accept any client that wants to pay us. We need to only accept quality clients that have the right integrity and make sure that we have the adequate capabilities of performing the audit. And then at that point, we can actually accept the audit and move on to the engagement letter. The engagement letter is like the contract for the audit. It's going to outline the responsibilities of the auditor and the client. So it's going to show that the auditor is responsible for auditing the company's financial statements and that the company is responsible for preparing its financial statements, for maintaining its internal controls, etc. So it's like the contract for the audit. Next up is audit planning. This is where we develop the overall strategy for the audit and the specific plan. We're going to start identifying the more risky parts of the company, and we're going to plan for which procedures we might perform to address those risks. In this planning phase, we have the risk assessment of the company. This is important for determining which areas to really focus on during the audit. We need to think about the risk of material misstatement, which is the inherent risk times the control risk. And then we have the detection risk, which is what the auditors have control over. So properly identifying the high risk versus low risk areas is essential during the planning process. Then we get to the main phase of the audit. This is when we start actually performing the audit procedures. So for example, we're going to be testing the asset accounts with a lot of confirmations, because for assets, we're worried about a company overstating its assets, which is the existence assertion. And for the liabilities, we're worried about a company understating its liabilities. So this is called directional risk. We're worried about a company making itself look better by inflating its assets or understating its liabilities. So these are the main elements that we're going to be testing for. So confirmations are very common to test the cash balances to make sure that the company actually has the balance that they say that they have. For inventory, it's very common to actually physically visit the company's warehouse to get an idea for their accounting process. And then on the liability side, for accounts payable, it's very common to perform a search for unrecorded liabilities, where we're going to make sure that the company didn't leave out any accounts payable. So we go through all this test work and then we analyze the results of the test work. And this is where we get into the conclusion phase of the audit, where we look at the different audit opinions. There are 4 options for audit opinions: unmodified, qualified, disclaimer of opinion, and adverse. So we're looking for whether there are material misstatements in the company's financial statements. So if there are not any material misstatements, then we can issue unmodified financials. If the company has material misstatements in a specific area but not widespread, then we can have a qualified opinion. If they're widespread, it would be adverse. And if we couldn't get enough audit evidence for some reason, it would be either qualified or disclaimer of opinion. So once we know what the audit opinion will be, then we're ready to finalize the audit with the management representation letter. This is a letter that the management of the company signs, showing that they are responsible for the company's financial statements. This is a very important written document that we must receive signed from the management before we issue the financial statements. So then once we have the management representation letter, we issue the financial statements and we have finished the audit process. So I hope you understand the audit process a little better after having watched this video. Be sure to check out some of my other content on the auditing process.